Hi, I'm Davin from Brewbitz.com. Behind the camera we've got James. Say hello, James. Today I thought we would brew up something a little bit different than wine or beer or cider. I thought we would show you how to brew up something with a little bit more punch. So I'm using here a Prohibition high alcohol kit. This is a cherry brandy kit, but we can also get ones for whiskey, for vodka, for peach schnapps, rum, you name it, there's absolutely loads. But we're going to need a little bit of equipment so that we can brew it up. So let's have a quick look at what we're going to need. First of all, we're going to need a bucket. We're going to need a demijohn with an airlock and a bubbler. We're going to need a jug. We're going to need 1,600 grams of sugar. We're going to need a cup or a glass. And we're going to need a couple of other little things. Now, because I'm making a cherry brandy liqueur, I'm also going to need some glycerine. This little baby is my trial jar for using my hydrometer. And we're also going to need a spoon for stirring everything, a thermometer because we need to keep an accurate temperature here of 20 degrees, and we're also going to be using a siphon. Now, once we've finished brewing it up, we need something to put it in. Here I'm just using some straightforward wine bottles with a cork and good old trusty corker. Okay, one other thing you're going to need to have with you is some sterilizer, because everything needs to be sterilized before you do it. And one final important thing, just to make sure everything goes nice and smoothly, good glass of something to keep the vocal cords lubricated. Right, so once we've got all that together, we can start brewing. The first thing we need to do, because with these kits we need accuracy, so that we can get the highest amount of alcohol out of the kit. So I've got a very good jug here which has got a litre measurement on that is actually a litre, and that's very important. Secondly, I'm using a brewing bucket here, and on the side of the brewing bucket it's got what we call a graduation, and just down here it says it's a guide only. We need to mark on our bucket exactly 4.7 litres. So I'm just going to simply pull off 4.7 litres of cold water and pop it into my bucket a litre at a time. I know that my jug is extremely accurate, right? Although it doesn't pour very well. Okay, come and have a quick look at this, James, because I've put my 4.7 litres in and it's actually come out at about the 4.8 litre mark on my bucket. And I'm going to mark that with a pen. You can use a biro or whatever pen that's going to mark the bucket. Okay, so now we've got that, we can get on and start brewing. So let's see what we've got in the box and what actual ingredients come with the kit. So here's your instructions, pretty detailed, follow them. We've got a little bottle, this is our cherry brandy flavour. Lovely. And then we've got a little bag of some other bits and bobs. So in here we've got, oh, this is as black as black things come. This is charcoal, and that's going to be used to clear our sugar wine. Right, we've got a sachet of sucrose, citric acid. We've got a couple of sachets of something called chitosan. That's for fining, that's to help us clear our alcohol. We've got a stabilizer, strict preservative. We've got a packet of yeast nutrients, and we've got a packet of yeast. And the other part of our finings, we've got this little packet of kind of pearlescent looking liquid, and that's called Key cell salt. Right, so now we've got all of our ingredients, we can start brewing. Now we need in our bucket to bring it 2 litres of cold tap water, and I've just measured that in there. And what we need to do is we need to now put our kettle on the boil. So that's going to go on. We need about 1 litre of boiling water there. So whilst I'm waiting for that to boil, I'm going to have a few sips of wine. Right, so I'm after 1 litre of boiling water. Perfect. And I'm going to add this to the 2 litres of cold water that I've already got in my bucket. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to take our sachet of sucrose and citric acid. In that goes, like so. And then we're going to take our 1,600 grams of sugar and we're going to gently pour that in as well. Okay, now then, we're going to take our spoon that we've sterilised, and believe it or not, this is going to take a little bit of time, but it does go. Can you hear that grating sound? That's telling me at the moment we've got loads of sugar still needing to be dissolved. Eventually, when you feel that grating and you hear those sounds disappear, you'll know that all your sugar's been dissolved into your liquid. Sometimes this can take a little bit of time, so just keep going, but I promise you it will all dissolve. Okay, it's taken a couple of minutes, but all our sugar is nicely dissolved. I'm just going to loosely put the lid on and move that to one side. Because what we need to do now is we need to take a glass or a cup, and what we're going to need in our cup is some water at about 35-40 degrees. So I've got a little bit of boiling water here. Put that in, and some cold water from the tap. I'm going to just guesstimate about that, and using my thermometer, we're going to try and get it to between 35 and 45 degrees. Okay, that's a little bit warm, it's a little bit out. A little bit more cold water in. You might think I'm being a little bit splitting hairs here, but if your temperature of your water is too high, you'll kill the yeast. If it's too cool, the yeast aren't going to work quite quickly enough. So I'm ideally heading for a temperature of smack bang on 35. Perfect. Okay, and now in our box you'll find your sachet of yeast. And all we're going to do is we're just going to sprinkle this on the top like so. Because what we're effectively doing is we're taking dry yeast and we're hydrating the dry yeast. Okay, we're going to put that to the one side and we're going to leave that now for 10 minutes. Our yeast has started to hydrate. Come on and have a look at this, James. Come right down to here if you can. And you'll see that the yeast on the bottom's hydrated, but up at the top, look, James, we've still got quite a lot of yeast. Right, back to me then. So all we're going to do is we're going to simply give it a little bit of a stir with a fork. Now it needs to be a stainless steel fork. Please don't try and think about using silver or your Graham's wooden fork or anything like that. It's got to be stainless steel. Okay, make sure it's all nice and coated like that, all in, and then we're gonna leave it. I've got so much on my fingers now. We're gonna leave it for another 5 minutes. Okay, we've given our yeast another 5 minutes. Come and have a good look at this, James, and you can see it's all frothy and nice and lovely on the top. What we need to do now is, with a little bit of cold water, nice and gently, we're going to bring it up to maximum of our glass, so we don't shock the yeast by taking it from nice and warm to blooming cold. Give it a good stir, make sure we've got all of the yeast from the side of the glass and whatnot. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add this to our bucket nice and gently. Okay, now it's still got a bit of yeast left in here, so I'm just going to use a little bit more cold water, get around the edges, get a good amount going through there, and any bits left. And in it goes. Right, so be careful though when you're doing this that you don't go above your 4.7 litre mark. Okay, in a box you will find a nice big sachet of your yeast nutrient. And now it's time to add this in as well. So it's just a white powder lump. And in that goes, and we sprinkle it in nicely like that. Okie dokie. Right, I'm going to give this a little stir. Make sure our yeast and our yeast nutrient are incorporated. Now, James, what did you do with my jug? Right, because now we need to, with some more cold water, we need to bring it up to the 4.7 litre mark that we marked out earlier. Lovely. Give us a good stir again. Beautiful. Right, now we're going to take our lid, we're going to pop down two sides like that. And this, ideally, what you probably recommend you do is pop this on a baking tray or a baking sheet. And this now needs to go into a warm cupboard. And the warm cupboard, very, very useful here. Take your thermometer once you put it in your warm cupboard and place it over the top. You want it to be at 20 degrees exactly. No higher, no lower. 20 degrees. 20 degrees is going to give you your absolute maximum chance of getting the highest amount of alcohol out of this kit that you're going to be able to get. So it goes in at 20 degrees in your warm cupboard. If you find your thermometer saying a little bit too high, then lower the bucket down. If it's a little bit too low, raise the bucket up. But 20 degrees is what we're aiming for. And really, we're looking then to leave it for 2 weeks, possibly 3 weeks, until all the signs of the fermentation stop. So, I'm going to see you in about 2 weeks. However, it's going to be literally for you in a couple of seconds. And we'll show you how to know when the fermentation is stopped and you're ready to move on to the next steps. It's been just over a couple of weeks since we put our sugar and water and yeast into our bucket and put it into the warm cupboard at about 20 degrees. I've taken a sample in my trial jar, and with my hydrometer I've tested it, and it's coming out at 0.990. So we're ready to move on to the next steps. Now come on in, James, and have a look at this. Because as you'll see now, if you look at it as it's fermenting, it's actually starting to clear. So what we need to do now is we need to take a demijohn, sterilised of course, and we need to take our siphon, sterilised of course, and we're going to pop our siphon in the top. Come on in, James, see how far I'm putting it in. You can see I'm not putting it in very far, and what I'm doing, go back to me, James, back to me. I'm going to start sucking on this end. And I just got a mouthful because I sucked a little bit too hard. But as you'll notice, I've got my finger on the end so nothing's coming out. Oh, that's quite strong. Okay, pop it in there. And what we want it to do is we want to siphon off, come back into the bucket, James, because we want to get and we want to follow with our siphon all the way down to the bottom. And we want to get as much liquid out of here as possible. Even when it comes down to the bottom, we may need to tip the bucket up. Okay, so we're down to about 1.5 litres. So what I'm going to start doing, go back a bit, James, back up a bit, so people can see what I'm doing. So I'm tipping the bucket back a bit. So down in here, look, it means, come on back in, James, have a look back in. So I'm managing to get as much of the liquid out of here as possible. You can see all the sediment at the bottom. You may need to tilt it back a little bit further as time goes on, but we're almost all the way there. Come on in, James, and you can see the sediment at the bottom, look, where you're not meant to be disturbing. And you see how the water, or our alcoholic water, is now just running away from it. Remember to keep your eye on your demijohn as well to make sure that you're not getting overfilled and alcoholic water is going everywhere. Alright, almost there. Not far to go. Get some slurpy sounds in a second. Eek, almost. Almost. Doesn't matter on this if you get a little bit of sediment in like that. You can see it's gone a little bit pinky white. Doesn't matter too much because the next process is all of, ooh, there we go. All of that's going to disappear out. So it doesn't matter if you get a little bit of sediment. So this is ideally what we're left with. Very little liquid in the bottom and pretty much all sediment. We've now got our alcoholic water in our demijohn. Feel free to have a taste of it when you're sucking. It's quite interesting, quite strong. First thing we're going to need to do is take our sachet of stabilizer, and what we're going to do is chop the top off with a pair of scissors, and we're going to very carefully pour this in to the demijohn. Okie cookie, go on. Right, the second thing you're going to need is your big black sachet of charcoal, and make sure you give this a good old rummaging around. What we don't want is we don't want any large lumps. Now it feels like a liquid, but I'm not sure if it is, you know. I think it's a powder, but we'll soon find out. So we're going to cut one corner off. Hey. Wow. It is a liquid, and we're going to gently pour it in all the way, get it all in. Look at that. Oh, lovely. Okay, right. The next thing we're going to need is we're going to need our stopper, our bung from our bubbler and bung. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the top. Push it in nice and firm. And now we need to get this all mixed in. So the reason why I'm using the bung is because it's got a small hole and I can kick my thumb over the top of it when I do this. Give it a good shake. Oh, oh. Now you might see a lot of bubbles come to the top. there might be a bit of carbon dioxide in here, so when you release your thumb, it might go like that. Give it another good shake. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is a good workout. Oh, whoops. Be a bit careful when, try that again. Yay. Okay. Oh, it's a good workout. We're going to need to do this a fair few more times over the next few days. So over the next 3 days, I want you to have a few more good workouts. 6 workouts in total. So over the next 3 days, 2 shakes a day. Really good shakes. Oh, once we've shaken, what we do is we put our airlock in the top, and in here I've got some sodium metabisulfate solution, and this is going to prevent any bugs and bacteria getting in and harming our alcoholic water. Now, what's the charcoal going to do, you're going to say? It's going to help to take any flavours that are in that water that's been put in there by the yeast. It's also going to help clear it absolutely fantastically, and it's going to basically mean we're going to have tasteless alcoholic water. Simple as that. So over the next 3 days, 2 shakes a day, but remember, when you come to shake it, take that out, hold it with the thumb over the top, and give it a good shake. Once you finish shaking, put your airlock back in. One thing I forgot to mention is, what do we do with it right now? Where do we put it? Well, I'm just going to put it on the side in my kitchen for the next few days. Doesn't have to be anywhere particularly warm, doesn't have to be anywhere particularly cool. Ideally, you want it to be about 15, 16 degrees. So in the corner of your kitchen, it'll be absolutely fine. Remember to shake it twice a day for 3 days. Oh, right guys, I hope you've enjoyed your 3 days of 2 workouts a day. I most certainly have. Basically, now we've got all the carbon dioxide that may have been dissolved into our liquid out. So we're now ready to move on and start clearing it and getting rid of all the charcoal that's in there and making a nice, clear alcoholic liquid. So the next steps is we need to take this packet. Come on in, James, and have a look at this, because I want people to see. Can you see that slightly pearlescent, not a clear liquid? And this is the one called Key-Cell Salt. And this is the one we need to add first. I always give my Key-Cell Salt a little shake, and then snip the end off and get it all in. Nice and gently, there we go, all in. Okay, now this time we're going to put our bung back in and our bubbler back in as well, but we need to mix this. Now we're not going to mix it like we've been doing where we've been shaking it. We need to be a little bit more gentle with this. So what we're going to do is, on a good flat surface, we're going to swirl it around. Now if you're not doing this in a demijohn, you find you're doing a bucket, then use a plastic spoon to gently stir. Need to do this for about 20 seconds. It's about 20 seconds. And now what we need to do is we need to put it now somewhere where it's not going to be disturbed. So I'm going to put mine there, and I'm going to come back at this time tomorrow, same time tomorrow, and we're going to do the next bits. So leave it undisturbed now for 24 hours. Since we added our packet of Key-Cell Salt, and as you'll see, come on in James, have a look at this, the charcoal has started to drop down to the bottom and it's started to clear, but there's still a lot of charcoal that's sat in the liquid at the moment, suspended. So what we need to do now is we need to get one of our other packets, which is a packet of chitosan. And you'll find there's going to be 2 packets of this in there, and we're going to use this packet now. This is the clear one. Again, I like to give it a good quick shake. Oh. Take out our stopper, chop off the corner, and gently pour it in. Right. Make sure you get it all in. This is going to combine together with the Kiesel Sol, and this is going to trap all of those remaining sediments. And the way we've got to mix this now to get it all going is we give it a good stir. Oh no, we're mixing it all up again! Ha! Don't worry, it'll all clear out again. Make sure it's all nicely mixed up. Give it a good 20 seconds of stirring. It's all black again. Right, now we need to leave this for 3 days. And in 3 days' time, over the next 3 days, you'll see this gradually clear again. But this time, instead of being cloudy like it was earlier, it's going to be brilliantly clear in about 3 days' time. Absolutely, just like it was water. If you find in 3 days' time it's not quite as clear as water, leave it for a couple more days. But hopefully this needs to be put somewhere cool where you're not going to disturb it for the next 3 days so that it clears perfectly. In a few days now, as we said earlier, you need to ideally let it sit for 3 days. I've left mine to sit here for a few more so that it becomes pretty clear. Unfortunately, I've been cussed a few times because of the position I've left my demijohn in, but as you can see, come on in James, have a look at this. You'll see it's absolutely lovely and clear. Right, so one thing you don't want to do now is we don't want to disturb any of the charcoal sediment that's in the bottom. So we need to be really careful about how we move it. So if you have got to move it, be very, can't stipulate that enough, careful. Otherwise you've got to start all over again from the point we were at a few days ago. Okay, what we're going to do now then? Well, we're going to take the bubbler and bung, and down here I have got a sterilised bucket from earlier, from the beginning, and I've also got my sterilised siphon. And what we're going to do is we're going to siphon out all of this liquor into our sterilised bucket. Okay, now, as I said, we need to be very careful not to disturb any sediment in the bottom, so all we're going to do is we're going to put it in the top. Come back to me, James, back to me. And what we need to do is we need to give a really good suck on this end here, down into the bucket, James, and let it flow. Right, back up to the demijohn, because what we're going to do, as the liquor falls in the demijohn, we're going to lower our siphon into it. So we're going to siphon from the top of the liquor down to the bottom. Won't take very long. Okay, so it's coming along, about halfway there. Sorry, that's my dishwasher beeping at me. Right, now I can see, can you see around the corner here, James? I can actually see some charcoal getting down through. Now this is charcoal that was on the side that I couldn't actually see. So, that's alright. It's going into the liquor at the moment, and what we'll do in a moment is we'll show you what we need to do because of that. Almost there, we're going to try and get as much of it out as possible without disturbing our charcoal at the bottom. So we can gently tip the demijohn up, be very careful to not let it slip. As you can see, there's a few little particles of charcoal just going in, but that's all right. I think that's probably going to be about everything I can get. Right, we need to give our demijohn a good clean out. And the easiest way to do that is just do a little bit of water into it. Give it a good swish around. And go again. Keep going until you've got no more charcoal in your demijohn. So I've now got a clean demijohn and I've sterilised it, and I've sterilised my siphon again just to make sure we get no bugs into it. And what we're going to do is we're going to siphon our liquor back from our bucket back into our demijohn. So again, pop it in, give it a good suck. Let it flow. I finished siphoning off our liquor back into our demijohn, and because I'm a fussy bugger, I'm going to add our last sachet of chittisane so I can get a brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly clear liquor. Now, looking at this here right now, I think it would be absolutely fine to go on to the next stage if you so wished right now. But as I said, I'm a fussy bugger, so I'm going to pop in the last sachet, it's quite difficult to say that, the last sachet of chittisane. In that goes, and we give it a good swirl. Get it all mixed in. And we're going to pop our bubbler and bung back on. So I'm now going to leave this there again for about another week. And in this week, undisturbed, hopefully I'm going to see any remnants of those charcoal particles drop to the bottom, and then I'm going to filter it off or siphon it off again, and we'll go from there. So, see you in about a week. It's been another 7 days since I added the last sachet of chittisane. Try saying that when you've had a few. And look at it. It's had time. It's out fantastically. It's brilliant. Come on in, James. Look, look, look. This is how clear it is, James. Hello. You can see down at the bottom there's a little bit of sediment left in the bottom, and that's exactly what I wanted it to be. This is now going to be absolutely perfect and ready for us to siphon off, and we're going to need a sterilised bucket again, and we're going to need our siphon, and I'm going to be very careful. I don't want to touch any of that sediment at the bottom. It's very, very prone to being disturbed, so just be very, very careful. Okay, same as always, give it siphon a good suck and get it flowing. And I'm going to gradually lower the siphon into the demijohn, James, into the demijohn. I'm going to gradually lower the siphon with the liquid so as I don't disturb any of the sediment at the bottom. Once we've got our alcoholic water in our buckets, we're ready for the next steps. And that's going to be adding our flavouring. Now here I'm using the cherry brandy Prohibition kit. And there's loads of other different flavours. You can get whiskey, vodka, gin, coconut rum, loads of other different ones. Some of them you're going to need to add some sugar to, others you're not. Now because here I'm using cherry brandy, I'm going to need to add some sugar. So what I'm going to need to do here first of all is into our clear liquid, I just pour in this flavouring. If you want to, come here, up to me, James. Oh, and it smells like black cherries. It's lovely, absolutely lovely. It's like Black Forest Gatto in a liquid. It's blooming lovely. Make sure you get it all in. And as you'll see, James, is all sank to the bottom. So with a sterilised spoon, we're going to gently give this a stir so we get it all mixed in. Make sure it's all fully mixed in. Before we move on to the adding of the sugar, what I've done here is I've taken my sugar, and in your instructions it will tell you how much sugar you need to add for the kit you're making. So with cherry brandy, to make the equivalent of the cherry brandies that you would get in the supermarket, it says you need to add about 750 grams of sugar. So what I like to do is I've split my sugar down into 250 gram measures, because I find if you've added sugar to it and you've added too much sugar to it and make it too sweet, that's it. You can't ever make it any more drier again. So once you've made it too sweet, you're going to have to drink it extremely sweet, and if it's too sweet for you, you're not going to enjoy it. So the first thing I like to do is take myself a shot glass. Before I've added any sugar, with my spoon, I take a small amount into my shot glass. Take only a little bit, James. And have a taste. It's quite dry. So, in goes our first 250 grams of sugar. And now, I'm going to give this a good stir. You need to keep going now until all the sugar is dissolved, gently stirring. It can take some time. And you'll know it's all dissolved because you'll no longer hear this horrible, gritty, grinding noise. And you won't feel it either. So keep going now until all your sugar is dissolved. Right, it's all mixed in. So let's have another taste. It's a lot sweeter already. Needs still a bit more though, I think. You'll notice it's starting to get a little bit thicker as well. So in goes another 250 grams. There we go. Right, so all that's dissolved, the second lot, so let's have a taste. See what we think. Now that's perfect for me. Now, at this stage you might decide that you want to add the extra 250 grams of sugar. But for me, I'm more than happy with that. Very happy. So what do we do now? Well, we need to put this in something to keep it. So here, I like to put my cherry brandy into little 250ml bottles. You can get these after you've drank some of those little small bottles of wine that you get in the supermarkets. Or you can get other pretty bottles around, it's up to you. So, we're going to need our siphon. I'm not going to need my spoon now, so that's out of the way. And on our siphon, James, if you can see, we had our sediment trap at the end here. Well, that now pops off. I've put my bucket clip on there, so I can pop it in there, and I don't now have to worry about the end of my tube. At this end, on my simple siphon, I've put my tap on. And again, like we always do, we give a suck. Down to our bottle, and let's fill our bottle up. Look at that colour, it's gorgeous. What? You've got to be quick when it gets to that bit because it will flow up really fast. And of course I've sterilised my bottle, sterilised my top. Right, pop that on, make sure it's got a good seal. And now pop a label on it, and there's your first bottle of cherry brandy. So, Best thing I've found to do with this cherry brandy is now leave it for about a month. If you can, a couple of months, 3 months, fantastic. Then pop open a bottle, get yourself a good scrumpy cider, cherry brandy in the bottom of the bottom of your pint glass. Top it up with a good dry scrumpy cider. Sit back, relax, enjoy. Fantastic way to drink cherry brandy. Enjoy!